The U.S. women captured gold in dramatic overtime fashion. We've got that and a look ahead to the men's semifinals next on the Locked On NHL Olympic Squad.
You are talking puck with the NHL Squad Show. From the Oilers to the Stars, Golden Knights, and the Panthers, the Rangers, Avalanche, and yes, even the Maple Leafs. The Locked On Podcast Network brings together all its local experts to provide the scoops, breakdowns, and comprehensive looks at all the NHL, with plenty of trash talk to go with it. Don't miss the hard hits and glove-dropping hot takes on the Locked On NHL Squad Show. It's time to drop the puck.
Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On NHL Olympic Squad Show. I want to thank everyone who makes the Squad Show their first listen every day. And don't forget to hit subscribe to Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And we want to thank everyone out there for helping to make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Gil Martin from Locked On Islanders. We're here today with David Morisuti of Locked On Leafs, Kyle Carr of Locked On Anaheim Ducks, and of course, Glenn Dreyfus of Locked On Kraken. And gentlemen, we had a very exciting women's gold medal game earlier today. Team USA comes up with a big 2-1 overtime win. The game-winning goal, extremely highlight reel in nature. Glenn, let's start with you today. What was your biggest takeaway from this game?
Well, I know the pre-recorded open said we're supposed to come with trash talk, but I can't do it because all respect to Canada. And I was prepared to say that because I thought they were going to win 1-0. This game was so different from the 5-0 rout that the USA put on Canada in the preliminary round. And the Canadians, proud effort, and did what almost no one had done in these Olympics, score against Team USA, shorthanded no less, and really bottled up the Americans. And at the watch party where I was at with several members of the Seattle Torrent PWHL team, because there were 4 Torrent on the U.S. side and 1 Torrent on the Canadian side in this game, and several hundred other women's hockey fans. It was just a nail biter. And I guess what I'd have to say, Gil, is how else could a USA versus Canada women's game, gold medal game go except to go to overtime?
Absolutely. That was exciting stuff, and just to see the amount of people rally around on both Canadian and the USA hockey side, and to see the fans cheering. And I've been traveling all day the last couple of days because of all these storms, and every airport, every hotel, everywhere I've been, there's been a USA game on. Like whether it was the men's game yesterday, the women's game, or all the women's games, all these games have been just taking over, and people are cheering. Everyone's excited. And that was, I think, one of the best contested hockey games that I've seen in a long time. The stat lines, everything was so equal and even. And like Glenn said, like of all the things for it to come down to, it has to be overtime. And to go that fashion, it's, someone's got to get burned. It's going to suck either way it goes. But that was just a well-fought battle by both of those squads.
Well, Gil, I'm going to push for what you were saying yesterday. Abolish the 3-on-3 overtime. God damn it. I thought for the gold medal game it was 5-on-5. Then when I heard it was 3-on-3, I'm like, Oh boy, this is just not going to go well. But no, I give credit because I came into this game thinking Canada didn't stand much of a chance, given how the U.S. dominated this tournament. So full credit to the Canadian woman for making this another classic end to these Olympics, and the U.S. woman for, you know what, it was. I thought they were looking a little rattled at with that goal being scored. They looked out of sorts, but Hillary Knight, what a way to go out and finish your Olympic career and getting that the tying goal that forced the overtime. Just the atmosphere. Like, I know we weren't there to see it live, but you could just hear it, the way that the crowd was into it, and it goes to show that there is still a play, like the women's hockey. There's a reason why these two teams, when they go up against each other with everything on the line, it's probably one of the better events to watch, just because it brings out the best in not only the teams but the people who support the teams as well.
Little controversy with a penalty call in there. David, let's start with you. What were your thoughts about that call and the way it was changed?
Yeah, I thought it was look, women's hockey, we know that the contact is like there's no contact, right? So like they've tried to walk the line a lot throughout the tournament. But when it takes out a player like that, I think that it's so tough, because when a player's down, they're hurt, everyone's like that should automatically be ruled a major. I'm like, but you know what? Things happen. Like accidents can sort of happen. So at least the penalty was called, I will say, because if this was an NHL game, sometimes those things get missed. So I'll at least give it the fact that it was called. But it makes me also wonder if the IIHF and IOC reconsider how hitting and how physical play is kind of called at the Olympics, because you can tell that these women are willing to be a little more physical. We see in the PWHL that they're playing with hits, they're playing with physicality. I get it, not every nation does, but you know what? I think it might be time to open it up so that, yeah, if you're going to get called for a penalty for physical play, let it be for a legitimate, like this one. I think even with physical, if you're saying hitting was allowed, this play would have been called. But let's now let the woman dictate. I think their actions in this tournament makes me believe that contact should be more allowed in Olympic hockey for women going forward.
Kyle, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I definitely saw that the whistles were put away in this one after the first period. They are letting the ladies hit, and the ladies were a hitting. There was some big physical plays that happened. There was, I forget, I think it was Carpenter was trying to go for the change, or maybe Murphy, and she got just kind of leveled at the red line, and no call there. Not saying that there should be, but they were letting these ladies play physical, and that call, it was kind of a tough one. I think that the distance was a little rough, but she didn't go into it in a malicious way. I think that's what pushed the refs more towards the dropping it back down to a 2. It was just she was in the play and she did immediately go for the puck, and that's where they kept emphasizing that with IHF. It's as long as there's an attempt to play the puck, or your initial reason for the check is to get the puck, then it's usually they let it go. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was fast paced. It was physical, and you got a lot of there was moments when it felt like a normal, like watching an NHL game, and I'm sure all the fans out there watching the PWHL and women's college hockey are like, well, we've been saying that for years. But I think this was one of the best Canadian and USA teams that we've seen at the Olympics in a long time.
Glenn, do you think that more contact should be allowed in women's hockey in the Olympics in 4 years?
The fans want it. The players want it. And these are not porcelain dolls. These are tough, strong, fast women. And they don't want to be protected in that way. We're not playing ringette here. This is hockey. The rules are different in the PWHL than the NHL in the sense that less contact is permitted away from the puck. But and that's fine. But the truth is that there's been hitting in women's hockey in the Olympics for a while now, and we've just pretended there wasn't. So it's time to say, yeah, okay, you women, you're fast, you're big, and it's time to acknowledge that women's hockey is a contact sport just like the men's game.
What do you think, if in any way, do you think the rules should be different for women's Olympic hockey than, let's say, men's Olympic hockey?
I don't know. Like, here's the thing. Like, I think the women want to be closer to the men in terms of how they want to play, right? Yeah. Like, I think it goes a long way to respect the game a bit more. To say, we think we think you should have more of the stuff, the rules that the men play with, right? I don't think I can understand the reasons why in the past it was that way, but I think now, with the way the game is being played in leagues, I think there's no reason why we should be putting any sort of restriction on the women and how they play. Because I could just tell that there's frustration because when you can't hit, you're going to do things differently to try to be physical. And to me, that can lead to more problems and more injuries because you're, using maybe your stick more and reaching in ways, right? You're hooking and you're holding. Well, I mean, those are penalties, but like you're trying to do those things that aren't as obvious. And that can lead to injuries too, because, you put your stick out there in a bad way, it can lead to something even worse happening, right? So I think if you're able to introduce it over the next 4 years, at the world championships and things like that, I say, why not?
It's going to be interesting. Going to be interesting to see how the IIHF handles this, how women's hockey internationally handles this, and also I think how the PWHL handles this going forward. But I could say this much: one heck of a hockey game played this afternoon between Canada and the United States. We've got a lot more to get to here on the Squad Show. We'll talk a little bit more about this game. We'll also look ahead to the men's semifinals, which will be played tomorrow. All that and more next on the Locked On NHL Olympic Squad Show. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. I love that you have all-in pricing. You see the price up front, no surprise fees at checkout, and zone deals stand out. You choose the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save. And one of my favorite features is the view from your seat. You get a panoramic view before you purchase the tickets, so you know what to expect when you arrive at the arena. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. Entering this tournament, everyone was saying how Team USA was playing at such a high level. And the first meeting between Team USA and Team Canada in the preliminary rounds, the United States dominated. What do you think this championship match, the gold medal game, says about where Team USA and where Team Canada are relative to each other at this point?
Well, I mean, for me, like I was saying kind of before that it looks like the U.S. are continuing to ascend and really turn over a new generation of players. Canada still holds on to the past. And I think that I thought these Olympics would maybe show Canada that. I think maybe this game will maybe show the Canadian Olympic, the women's team, that it's time to really put some effort into growing the younger fan base, not just fan base, but the players as well. No, as good as Marie-Philippe Poulin is, she's 34. She's not. Yeah, we're not sure if she's going to play in another Olympics ever again. And what did we hear going when she got hurt? Don't know how Canada is going to be able to come back without her. And it's like she is, among the greatest of all time to play women's hockey. Don't get me wrong, but it also goes to show how much they rely on their veteran players. I think it's time for Canada to at least acknowledge where the states are ahead of them, and that is with their younger players and how that they've developed. So I think the Americans should feel very they should be very proud of where that team has come. And look, they, when things got tough, they didn't crumble. They could have easily have gone sideways for them, but they found a way to win it. As credit to the depth that team has put together.
Kyle?
Yeah, I think with this tournament and now seeing the difference with having the PWHL and having the players and what speed and skill that they have brought to that tournament, I think this championship game shows that Canada and USA are still fairly close. I think that during the preliminaries, it was a fluke game. Marie-Philippe Poulin was not in the lineup. Not that she's the only one controlling the team, but like David said, they got to get a little bit more investment in the youth. And I think, I don't know where the development kind of went to the wayside for the women's game in Canada, but it seems like it's been so strong in the U.S., fastest growing youth sport in America, or in the U.S. at least. And you've got this new PWHL and everything. But I think the big thing is we're going to see a little bit more kind of like the men's game, where Sweden, Finland, these other countries, Czechia, Slovakia, they're going to be having stronger programs now too, because of the statement and just how the women's game is developing. I think that you're going to see a lot more of those countries start to step up as well. And it's not going to be just Canada and the US dominating like they have been.
Glenn?
Well, you guys are spot on, because the United States was dominant because they were fast. And they were fast because they were young. And the numbers just are mind-boggling. 33 goals for in this tournament, 2 against. The United States has won now its last 8 meetings with Canada, and they've won 3 Olympic gold medals to Canada's 4 in this rivalry. But before we get completely hooked on the youth movement, I do want to mention the Team USA captain, the old lady, 36-year-old Hillary Knight. Gil, you mentioned her in the opening. She scored the tying goal with the goalie out, 2 minutes left, Canada holding on to a 1-0 lead. This was her 5th and final Olympics. She goes out with 2 gold medals to go with her 10 gold medals in IIHF World Championships. And I just want to talk about the hat trick she had. A gold medal, that's 1. In a brief respite from hockey while in Milan, Hillary got engaged. She popped the question to her longtime girlfriend and Olympic speed skater, Brittany Bowe. They've been dating since 2022. They met during the Beijing Olympics. Okay, so that's a second part of the hat trick. And then probably what she'll cherish more than getting engaged or winning a gold medal, she got a Snoop Dogg Olympic pin. She got it from Snoop Dogg.
That's the keeper there.
She was on her socials. You can't believe how excited she was that she got one of these Snoop Dogg Olympic pins. Apparently, they're very in demand. There's a limited supply, and she got one. So She's coming back from Milan. She's going to need some extra suitcases.
Oh, she also set the point record for the Olympics for both men and women's, but good thing she got that Snoop Dogg coin.
That's right.
Certainly, puts a new meaning on pin me, I guess. But yeah. Gotta also give a shout out to the Swiss women. They end up beating Sweden also in overtime, also 2-1. So Switzerland ends up with the bronze medal at these Olympics. And, what does that say about the development of women's hockey on a bigger stage?
I mean, look, I've been clamoring for a third nation, even like just to get more women teams to be in contention here. Because look, as great as this rivalry is, I think it's great, but I also believe that it's something that kind of holds the sport back a little bit, because you're not seeing all best on best. You're seeing two teams that are, dominating the sport. They have ruled the sport for so long. And so I watched the tournament, and I was like, the Swiss put up a good fight against Canada in the semis. That was not an easy game for Canada by no means. But at the same time, it's like they still came up short. I think it would have said more if one of these teams were to find a way to get an upset and to really shock the world in a bit, and maybe it opens eyes a little bit. Because, look, I'll tell you this. I spoke to some people who follow the Olympics in European countries. When these teams and when these athletes do well, the support then follows.
Mhm.
So for Switzerland, my hope, and we know Switzerland in hockey, there's a big it's big over there. There's a big investment in hockey there. I'm just hoping that they can be the next team that gets there. Like Sweden has had a decent team. It always boggles my mind that Sweden isn't further along given their history. I understand that it takes a little while for the women's game to catch up to the men's game, like it did for Canada and the US. I'm waiting for these teams like Sweden, like Switzerland, and even Finland to catch up a bit more, because I think the potential's there. We just haven't seen it grow, I think, the way that they would have liked to have seen it.
Yeah. Well, you brought up Sweden. I really feel like there might be a mix up in the Swedish Hockey Federation, whatever it is that they call their department for the Swedish country of IHF development, because I think this tournament has kind of been underwhelming for both the Swedish teams. Obviously, to push US the way they did, that was a big moment, but throughout the tournament, it just didn't seem like they were a big deal. But with the Swiss, like I don't know if you caught this moment. I thought it was a pretty cool moment. But when they announced the Swiss ladies for winning bronze and they all came out, the US ladies, they went down and were shaking their hands and stuff. And when Hillary Knight went down the line, some of the girls on the Swiss team were like lighting up like they were meeting their idol, at like a meet and greet or something. Like they were so stoked that she was coming and shaking their hand. And that just shows like clearly the game's growing and it's grabbing attention, that you've got these women from other countries just blown away that they're getting to shake the hand of Hillary Knight and Kendall Coyne and all these other players that have been idols to them. And now they get to kind of set that history for themselves, or should I say herstory.
All right. Well, we have got more to get to on today's show. We will look ahead to the men's semifinals. That's coming up on Friday. We'll preview those two games next on the Squad Show. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadline stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure is on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed, Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, guys. The men's semifinals will be on Friday. We have Canada versus Finland and the United States versus Slovakia. Let's start with Canada first. What kind of a challenge does Team Finland pose to Team Canada? And who are some of the players maybe that you'd be most worried about if you were coaching the Canadian team?
Well, I mean, look, Finland, they got off to a bit of a slow start, but look at who's been shining for them in this tournament, right? Miro Heiskanen, he's really stepped up lately. You got so many good players. You got Anton Lundell, you got Sebastian Aho, you've got Mikko Rantanen. That's that. Like, I'll give Chicken credit. They put up a good fight against Canada, but Finland's got depth. They got talent. On both sides. I think their blue line's better too. I think that's going to be a tough thing for Canada. Now, Canada has got a little more things to worry about with their own injuries and things like that. But yeah, Finland is not going to be. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. I know everyone's already looking ahead to the gold medal game. I think some Canadians have been a little bit too cocky and talking about how could Canada be playing a gold medal game at 8 a.m. I was like, let Canada get there first before that talk happens, because Finland is not going to be a pushover.
No. Well, and you forgot to mention the captain, Mikael Granlund. He had so many opportunities in their qualifying game, just opening the slot. And I think you're seeing someone that's going to take credit and take responsibility. We've seen it all year out here in Anaheim. And I think he's someone that's going to kind of level head this team and has the ability to score. That's a lot of players that he's playing against in Canada that, he knows their game. He plays against them out here, or he's teammates with them, whatever it is. He's got that familiarity, and I think he's going to have the leadership to help carry this team. Canada, no slouch. I mean, and then you got the USA side as well. 3 crazy OT games for the quarterfinals, and I don't know. I got to go to the doctor with how much stress I've been going through this last couple of days with these games. I'm telling you, it's been very anxious city out here at the Olympics.
Glenn, your thoughts on Slovakia and the U.S.?
Well, I got a detour back to Canada just because both captains in this tournament got hurt. Poulin for the women, and I bet she wasn't at full strength in this game on the women's side. And Crosby, maybe it's not a serious injury, but not a good look. What if Canada is hobbled by, not that they're not a deep team on the men's side. As far as the game, USA against Slovakia, it's always tough going against the darling of the tournament. And the USA is going up against the darling of the tournament. There's one Cinderella among these 4 teams. It's the one that isn't quite as stacked with NHL stars like the other 3. But the Slovaks don't seem to care. Remember, they've already upset Finland. So they belong here. The USA should be favored. But, I haven't been overwhelmed by how Team USA is played. I haven't been overwhelmed by Jordan Binnington in net. And I won't say they're right for an upset, but it wouldn't shock me either.
Going to be interesting, no doubt about that. Guys, I'm going to ask for your predictions. Who plays for the gold medal? Kyle, let's start with you.
I don't want to say it because it's I want it to be what everyone wants it to be. I'll say that. But I'm very nervous because you have two teams that could easily with the quarterfinals against Sweden, you see USA down. You're thinking they're not going to be able to come back, and then they had to squeeze out of one. Canada was back and forth with Czechia. They look like they're not about to advance. It was just such a stressful tournament, and you just realize how one game elimination is so much different than a 7-game series. And of course, I want the two teams that I think everyone thinks going to be there, but Slovakia has me nervous, and Finland could pull something. So it's really up for grabs.
David?
I'm going to stick to what I said well before. I think it's still going to be Canada and the U.S. I know the road doesn't get easier, but you go and you tell some of these players, that there's no that it's going to be hard. They said, we'll welcome it, right? Mm-hmm. They're not shying away from the tough challenge. So I'm still sticking with Canada, U.S. Gold medal game.
Glenn?
Canada and U.S. were one goal away each from not even making the semifinals. So just to be a contrarian, Canada has the best roster, and I don't think anyone would argue with that. And so just to be a contrarian, I'll go Slovakia and Finland, with the Finns taking home the gold. And if I'm right, then I want this recording preserved. And if I'm not, I will deny I ever said it.
Are you traveling to
FanDuel right now? Throw that FanDuel bet right now.
Yeah, lock it.
Okay, so about this FanDuel stuff, there's a league that Gil mentioned, the NBA. I'm not really familiar. What is that organization?
Never heard of it.
Yeah, well, okay.
Bunch of scrubs.
Bold hot take there from Glenn. So we'll see how this all works out. If you never miss an episode of your favorite team's podcast on Locked On, well, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get your favorite team's podcast ad-free, plus you'll get access to the members-only Discord server and a whole lot more. So check out the link in the show notes, or go to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer for more information. We will be back tomorrow for another episode of The Squad Show, talking about what happened in the semifinals of the men's competition and looking forward to the gold and bronze medal games. I'm Gil Martin from Locked On Islanders. On behalf of Kyle Carr of Locked On Anaheim Ducks, Glenn Dreyfus of Locked On Kraken, and of course, David Morisuti of Locked On Leafs. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow.